Welcome to my YouTube channel. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Understanding the development controls. Under Rules 7 and 8 of the Revised Implementing Rules and Regulations of PD number 1096, National Building Code of the Philippines.
Hello everyone, I am here with another episode of Architalks. This is a continuation of my series on Rules 7 and 8 of the revised IRR of the NBCP. So stay tuned. So for today, we are going to discuss the development controls for a residential basic R2 zone. So ito yung example natin. We have a proposed house for an OFW. The lot is located in a basic R2 zoned area, and the total lot area is 96 square meters. It is a corner lot with a 9.6 meter wide frontage facing south, and there is a 12 meter wide road at the west and the south sides of the property. So if we are going to refer to table 8.G.7, this is the suggested minimum lot sizes for a basic R2 zone corner lot. The suggested minimum lot size is 96 square meters with a dimension of 9.6 by 10 meters. So this is the example that we are going to use today. So if we are going to draw the lot, so that is an almost square lot, 9.6 by 10 meters with 12 meters road on the west and south sides. So you are going to ask what you can do with this particular lot. Up to how much extent can you develop this property? So we are now going to determine the development controls. So you will have two options for development. One option is to build without firewall. So you're going to determine what are the development controls for the project if the building will have no firewall. So this will be a single detached house. The other option is to build a structure with firewall. And so you are going to determine also what are the development controls for the project if the building will have a firewall. So this will be a single attached house with firewall on one side of the property. So let us start. So first we're going to determine the development controls if the building will have no firewall. So that will be a single detached house if that is the option that the owner would want. So we are going to determine what will be the allowable maximum building footprint for the project and also its corresponding allowable maximum percentage of site occupancy. So the first reference that we're going to look at is table 8.2. This is the minimum setbacks. And for basic R2, our minimum setback for the front will be 3 and the sides and rear will be 2 meters. So if we are going to apply that, we have two roads, so we are going to have two front setbacks. So it means that the dimension on one side of the building will be 9.6 minus 3 minus 2 will be 4.6. And the other side of the building will have a maximum dimension of 10 meters minus 3 minus 2 will give you this maximum dimension at 5 meters. So if you are going to compute for the area of this blue portion, that is the using the maximum dimensions, you will arrive at the allowable maximum building footprint that is based on the minimum setback. So you will have 4.6 by 5 will give you 23 square meters, and its corresponding percentage or the maximum PSO will be 23 divided by the total lot area of 96 square meters will give you 23.9 or around 24%. So the next reference that we are going to check is table 8.1. This is the reference table for the maximum allowable PSO. And for the zoning basic R2, the allowable maximum PSO without firewall will be at 55% of the TLA. So 55% of our lot area of 96 square meters will give you 52.8 square meters as your AMBF based on this table 8.1. So the rule in determining the AMBF or the allowable maximum building footprint is that the more stringent but applicable regulation should be observed. So we are going to compare those two values that we have derived. One is based on the minimum setbacks using table 8.2 and the other one is based on table 8.1. So we compare these two values, and the more stringent one, the most stringent will be our final answer for the AMBF and the maximum PSO. And so it is based on the minimum setbacks which prevail. And so our computation now for the AMBF and the maximum PSO, our final answer will be 23 square meters for the AMBF and the maximum PSO is at 24%. So our next development control that we're going to compute is the remaining part of the lot that will be left open, and that will be the allowable minimum total open space within lot, or the minimum TOSL for the project, and also the allowable minimum unpaved surface area, or the minimum USA. And we also have the allowable maximum impervious surface area, or the maximum ISA. And lastly is the maximum allowable construction area, or the MACA, for the project. So let us start with the allowable minimum total open space within lot if the building will have no firewall. So according to the revised IRR, the minimum total open space within lot, or the minimum TOSL, are the portions of the lot, or the TLA, that is not occupied by the maximum allowable PSO. So which means that if we are going to deduct from the TLA our value of the maximum PSO or the AMBF that we have derived earlier, then that will be our minimum total open space. So let us deduct this AMBF of 23 square meters that we have derived earlier. Will give you 73 square meters as your minimum TOSL, or if we deduct the maximum PSO of 24% from the 100% TLA, will give you the minimum TOSL at 76%. There is another reference which is table 8.G.6, and this is actually the reference table for the minimum TOSL. So we look at the corner lot, and for R2, we have this provision, 30% is for the minimum TOSL without firewall for all other R1 and all other residential uses, including R2. So if we are going to make use of that, 30% is our minimum TOSL. 30% of the total lot area of 96 square meters will give you a value of 28.8 square meters. So actually, this is the minimum allowable TOSL as per this reference. So the value that we have derived earlier is a value that is based on the maximum PSO, which is bigger than this one. So we will stick to this minimum TOSL as per table 8.G.6. So that will now be our final value for the minimum TOSL, although you can have a bigger open space, because our AMBF or maximum PSO is only 23 square meters or 24%. So we go to the allowable minimum unpaved surface area or the minimum USA. Our reference for this one is table 8.1. So we just make use of the percentage shown in this table. For R2, without firewall, for the minimum USA, will give you a value of 15% of the total lot area. Will give you now the area of the unpaved minimum at 14.4 square meters. Okay, so this will be our final value for the minimum USA, 14.4 square meters, 15%. So let us go to the allowable maximum impervious surface area or the maximum ISA. Again, our reference for this one is table 8.1. So we just make use of that percentage given. Our maximum ISA will be 30% of the TLA or 96 square meters will give you a value 28.8 square meters. So again, we input that value in our summarized table. And the last computation for the open space is the maximum allowable construction area, although this also include part of the lot which is not an open space, because this is a combination of the maximum PSO and the maximum ISA. So we just make use of that portions of the lot wherein you can have a construction. Both are maximum values, so we add these two. 55 plus 30% will give you 85% of the total lot area or 96 square meters will give you the maximum allowable construction area at 81.6. So this is now our summary for the development controls that are all taken at grade level. So our next development control to determine will be the development controls pertaining to the floor areas of the building. So we are going to determine now the allowable maximum gross floor area or the maximum GFA, as well as the allowable maximum total gross floor area or the max TGFA for the project if the building will have no firewall. So let's start first with the maximum GFA allowable. So this is the formula. Our allowable maximum GFA will be your total lot area multiplied by the maximum recommended floor to lot area ratio or the FLAR. And we are going to refer to this table 7.G.1. And then for R2, it says here that the maximum value for the FLAR designated is 1.5. So we only have to multiply that 1.5 with the total lot area of 96 square meters will give you our maximum GFA allowable at 144 square meters. So let us go now to the maximum TGFA allowable. Our reference for this development control is table 7.1. This is the allowable maximum total gross floor area. So for basic R2, that is without firewall, for a corner lot, the value here is 3 by 70%, wherein 3 represents the building height limit or the number of floors, and 70% represents as the allowable maximum building footprint that is expressed as a percentage of the total lot area. So we only have to make use of that value, 3 by 70% of the TLA, which is 96 square meters, will give you a value for the max TGFA 201.6 square meters. Another reference for determining the maximum TGFA is making use of the value of the maximum GFA, converting it to its equivalent total gross floor area maximum. So table 7.G.2 provides the multiplier wherein you only have to multiply our value of the maximum GFA, which we have derived earlier. The 144 square meters can be converted to its maximum TGFA by multiplying it by 1.25. So which means our maximum TGFA based on this table is 180 square meters. So if we are going to summarize the values, we have our maximum GFA based on the table 7.G.1. This is the recommended FLAR, designated FLAR. Our maximum GFA is at 144 square meters. And for our maximum TGFA, that is based on table 7.1, the reference table for the maximum TGFA, our value is 201.6 square meters, while based on table 7.G.2, this is the conversion table, our value for the maximum TGFA will be at 180 square meters. So you will see here that our value based on the conversion table is more stringent than the one based on the reference table. But take note that these two values for the maximum TGFA are not yet the final answer, even if you make use of the 180, because the final answer for the maximum TGFA will be based on whatever value that you will derive based on the AMVB, or the allowable maximum volume of building. So we have already completed the development controls if the option is to build a house without firewall. And you will see that the area is very limited. Much of the lot is wasted. So instead, a much better option is to come up with a building that is with firewall. So that will be a single attached house. So we now would want to determine the development controls if you will have a single attached house. So the same thing, we are going to determine the allowable maximum building footprint and also the allowable maximum percentage of site occupancy for the project. That is if the building will have a firewall or a single detached house. So since the building will have a firewall, we have to look at the provisions in the building code pertaining to firewall limitations. And for medium density residential R2 uses or occupancies, a firewall can be erected on a maximum of 80% only of the total length of a side property line. So only just one side, provided that only one side property line is used for a firewall in the case of an R2 structure. So we have two sides here because this is a corner lot, so you can have the firewall here or you can have the firewall here, but this dimension here, the side here, will give you a longer area and a bigger area for an additional floor for the building footprint. So we compute first the maximum length of the firewall. So 80% of 10 meters will give you 8 meters. So our maximum building dimension here is only 5 meters. So which means if we add the 0.6 extension here and 0.6 extension here, that will only be 6.2 meters length for the firewall based on this 5 meters dimension, and that is less than the maximum length allowable of 8 meters. So which means that we can provide a firewall there, it will be okay. So the additional area that we will have here is this portion. So our AMBF now will be this 4.6 plus this 2 meters. It will be 6.6 and multiplied it by this dimension of 5 meters will give you now an area of 33 square meters. That will be our AMBF. And so our maximum PSO is 33, and divide it by the TLA of 96 square meters will give you 34.4% or 34%. So our next reference is table 8.1. So this is our reference table for the maximum PSO and for a basic R2 with firewall, our maximum PSO now is 60%. So 60% of the TLA, that will be our maximum PSO, and our corresponding AMBF will be 60% of 96 square meters, will give you 57.6 square meters. So we are going to compare again, because accordingly you have to get the most stringent between the different values of the AMBF or the maximum PSO. And so if we compare the values based on table 8.2 and table 8.1, our most stringent is based on table 8.2, which is the minimum setbacks. So we now have this final value for the AMBF and the maximum PSO, 33 square meters, 34%. So we now go into the other part of the lot that is not occupied by the AMBF or the building. And that will be the maximum portion for your open space. So we are going to determine the allowable minimum TOSL. Also, its allowable minimum unpaved surface area. And also, we have the allowable maximum impervious surface area. And lastly, we can determine the maximum allowable construction area or MACA. So let us start with the allowable minimum total open space or the minimum TOSL. Again, if we refer to that provision that the minimum TOSL will be the portion of the lot that is not occupied by the maximum PSO. So we only have to deduct our AMBF value or the maximum PS value that we have derived earlier, that is with firewall. So 96 square meters minus the AMBF of 33 will give you a minimum TOSL of 63 square meters. Or 100% minus the maximum PSO with firewall at 34% will give you 60% of the TLA. But this is based on the most stringent maximum PSO or AMBF, and that we are going to compare with the minimum TOSL allowable. Reference table here is table 8.G.6, and accordingly for a corner lot with firewall here, for R2 is 25%. So even though the value that we have derived earlier is bigger than this one will be used as our minimum TOSL, 25% of 96 square meters, or that is 24 square meters. That is the minimum TOSL. Although based on the maximum PSO, you can have a bigger open space. So this is now our summary. So you will see here that our minimum TOSL is only 25%, which means that if we are going to consider the maximum PSO, it means that your open space actually can be bigger than the minimum requirement of 25%. So our next development control is the minimum unpaved surface area allowable. So again, our reference here is table 7.1. So we only have to copy what is provided here. With firewall, the value is 10% of the TLA. So 10% of 96 square meters will give you 9.6 square meters. And so, we now input the value of the minimum USA in our table. And our next computation will be for the allowable maximum impervious surface area or the maximum ISA. Again, our reference is table 7.1. So, the value here with firewall is 30% of the TLA will give you 28.8 square meters. Again, we input this value in our summary table. And lastly is to compute for the maximum allowable construction area or MACA. And again, our reference is table 7.1. We only have to add the value of the maximum PSO and the maximum ISA here. So that will be equivalent to 90% of the total lot area of 96 square meters will give you a MACA of 86.4 square meters. So this is now our summary for the development controls that are all taken at grade level. So we now proceed with the development controls pertaining to the floor areas of the building, and that will be the allowable maximum gross floor area or maximum GFA, that is with firewall, and also the allowable maximum total gross floor area or the maximum TGFA for the project with firewall. So let's start with the maximum GFA with firewall. So our reference is this formula and the table 7.g.1, and we're also going to make use of the same value for the FLA or designated maximum at 1.5, and so you will arrive at the maximum GFA of 144 square meters. So you will notice that whether there is firewall or no firewall, the value that you're going to derive here will be the same. The earlier, without firewall, we have arrived at the same value at 144 square meters. So we now go to the maximum TGFA allowable. So based on table 7.1, our reference table for the maximum TGFA allowable, we now go to the one with firewall here. Page 2 of that table, you will see for corner lot, basic R2 is 3 by 75% of the TLA. So the 3 here is again your BHL, and 75% is your maximum PSO. So we make use of the values provided in this table. So we arrive at 3 by 75% of the TLA 96 square meters will give you 216 square meters. Again, we have another table to look at, that is table 7.g.2. This is the conversion table. Our conversion is 1.25, converting our maximum GFA earlier of 144 square meters. We have computed this earlier based on the maximum FLAR. So our value for the maximum TGFA will be at 180 square meters. Again, you will notice that it's the same value of the maximum TGFA without firewall, because our maximum GFA will not change even though the building will have firewall or no firewall. So if we are going to compare, this is our maximum GFA, and this will be our maximum TGFA values. So if we look at the maximum TGFA values here, the more stringent one will be at 180 square meters based on table 7.g.2. Again, this might not be the correct answer yet for the maximum TGFA, because as I mentioned earlier, the correct value of the maximum TGFA can only be determined if you have already a value for your allowable maximum volume of building, because the maximum TGFA should not exceed what is provided for in the AMBF. So if we are going to summarize the values for the development controls if the building will have no firewall, so this is a single detached house. And the second option is if you will have a building with firewall, and that will be a single attached house. So you will see that if you're going to build a structure with firewall, or that is a single attached house, definitely you will be having bigger floor areas, and you make use of your lot much better. So again, you will notice here that our maximum GFA without firewall and with firewall will be the same, as well as our maximum TGFA based on the conversion will also be the same without firewall and with firewall. So that's it for today, and I hope that you watch out for my succeeding videos. Scan the above to learn more about our review for Rule 7 and 8 at Atlas CDC.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. For a more comprehensive study on Rules 7 and 8 of the revised IR of the NBCP, please enroll at Atlas CDC Review. Email us at atlascdcreview@gmail.com, or you may join us at our FB group page, www.facebook.com/groups/ALA Review.